So this really is a shocker. So far this year there have been 1,300 reported cases of forced marriage. Well, today the Forced Marriage Act becomes law. Hopefully it'll offer some protection to women who are being forced into marriage against their will. Well, join me in a minute is one woman who knows all too well about this, Sameem Ali. But first, have a look at this.
We look like a happy family, don't we? And we were, but it all went wrong when I was 13. And my sister, she was only 16. My parents started talking about getting her married to some boy from back home.
I don't want to get married.
Why not?
Because I'm not ready, Mama.
I was married when I was 16.
Times have changed.
We don't care whether time has changed or not.
Why are you forcing me to get married?
Don't put your
No,
out at us.
I'm not going to get married.
The arguments went on for months and months.
Where are you going? I have not finished with you yet.
When they weren't all arguing, either my mum or my sister were in their bedrooms crying. It was an absolute nightmare. I guess she felt she had no choice. But since she left, the crying, the fights, it hasn't stopped. It's my 16th birthday next week.
Well, Sameem Ali joins me now. And Sameem, that was horrendous enough, but you were, what, 13 when you were forced into marriage?
I was only 13. I was taken abroad and I was forced into marriage.
And it was a much older person, somebody you'd never met before?
No, I'd never met him before.
So you're 13 years old, and in your wedding night, you know, this person has sex with you, basically, which I think we could say was rape, and repeated all the time, and you're only 13 years old. It just is beyond belief. It really is, and it's happening far, far, far too much. We should obviously make the distinction, and I think it's important to do so. A forced marriage is not an arranged marriage. Completely different.
I've got no comments about arranged marriage.
Well,
I think,
you know, you've got a say then,
arranged
haven't you?
marriage works.
Yeah.
You know, forced marriage doesn't. You know, and it happens far too often. And I think this new act that has been enforced now is a step in the right direction. However, it's a very small step in the right direction.
Sure, so it's still not illegal, is it?
No, it's not illegal. But now is when the hard work starts. You know, it's kind of like, you know, forced marriage doesn't happen overnight. It happens over years and years. You know, and it's things that need to be picked up before it actually happens.
For sure.
You know, we need to start focusing on child abuse. We need to start focusing on the abuse that goes on before the forced marriage actually happens. And so, as I said before, you know, it's a small.
It's a baby step on the way.
Yeah, a baby step in the right direction.
Do you know what, though, I mean, thanks to you, because I know you wrote your book Belonging, and thanks to people like you, we are actually talking about this now. Because it wasn't all that long ago that nobody would talk about it. Everybody was too tippy-toeing round, and there was all this sort of silliness about thinking that we shouldn't be discussing these issues. And it's absolutely vital that we do. Because we're saying, you know, there's perhaps 1,500 of these cases. That's the ones we know about.
That's the ones that we know about. It happens far more than that. And it's really good that it's been recognised now, you know, and that is the key point, really, you know, that this is recognised, and now we can put the preventative mechanisms in place now.
Sure.
You know, we need to start talking about it in schools, and we need to start talking about it within the families it happens. You know, we have to start at root level. And if
I couldn't agree with you more, and it's about changing people's attitudes as well, isn't it?
It is. Times have changed. You know, we all have choices in life, you know, and if we're given those choices and we're able to follow them through, you know, I don't think anybody would kind of, you know, we shouldn't take that away from the person.
No, absolutely. We're talking about kids 13 and younger sometimes that are at school one day, you know, they're at school in Britain, leading normal lives, getting on with their lives, and then taken away to a foreign country, whether it be Pakistan or whether it be somewhere else, and forced to marry. And we can't let this continue. It cannot be allowed to continue.
It can't be, you know, and it's things that can happen beforehand, which will happen now. You know, this is recognised now, and now we can make sure that happens.
Sure, because for you You had a very difficult childhood. You were abandoned as a baby, and then you had actually a happy time in a children's home, as I do remember when we talked about it before. And then you were taken back home, but really you had a hell of a life, absolutely awful. You were more like the slave in the house, weren't you?
I did, and nobody picked that up.
See, that's the thing. Somebody,
You know.
one of the authorities should have seen what was going on. You know, you were being beaten up, you had the most horrendous childhood, and then your mother takes you away to Pakistan. I guess you thought she was showing you affection, but in fact she was taking you to get married off to a much older man.
And nobody picked it up again. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, you know, I went missing from school at the age of 12.
I think somebody would have said, where is she?
Yeah,
Where's she gone?
and nobody picked up that fact. That, you
And
know,
that's what we've got to do.
Yeah, this child is missing from school, you know.
Yeah.
And we need to pick up on these things, really. You know,
Absolutely.
missing children from school.
Absolutely.
We need to pick up on the abuse earlier.
Because not everybody's as strong as you see. You were incredibly strong. You came back here and you've got two beautiful sons and you fought on their behalf and managed to escape that situation. But not everybody is as brave as you. You know, not everybody has that strength. And, you know, obviously we've got a helpline up there for anybody who's watching, any young girl who's watching is scared. Give them a phone and they'll help you out. 0800 599 247. So make sure you do give them a call. Thank you, Sameem, thank you very much indeed for coming in. I know that sadly, we will be talking about this, but I think the more that we can air it, the better.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. If you want more information as well, it's all on the website, and I would recommend Sameem's book, Belonging, that gives you a real insight into what happens.